So let's get Automatic1111 installed. So I've currently got it running on my machine locally. But the first thing you want to do is go into Google and search for Automatic1111 and select the first result that comes up, which is the stable Diffusion web UI, and that will take you through to the GitHub repo. If you scroll right down, there's a section on installation on Windows. Now there's a couple of hardware requirements before we start the installation process. So the first thing is you need to make sure you've got an NVIDIA graphics card. You can run this on other graphics cards, but it's painfully slow. Just to give you an example, I ran it on a 1080 AMD and it took me about 10 minutes to create a single image. On my current NVIDIA 3060, it takes about 2 seconds. The other thing you need to check is the amount of VRAM you have, which is the video card memory. You can do that by right-clicking on your taskbar, going to Task Manager, selecting Performance, and going to the GPU tab. And what you're looking for is dedicated GPU memory. I've got 12. As long as you've got 4 plus, then it should be fine. But the sort of recommended is 8 plus, anything above 8. If you've only got 4, that's sort of on the borderline, but there is tweaks and settings that you can make to allow it to run in a low memory mode. So the other hardware requirement is disk space. I think out of the box there's about at least 7 gig of downloads from the base model, dependencies, and other bits and pieces that it pulls. So you need a little bit of storage space just to get going, but also if you're going to get involved with this, you're going to be downloading models, extensions, and all sorts. So it quickly starts to add up. I think my install path is about 100 or 150 gigabytes in size already. So once you're okay with those things, you want to install Python 3.10.6, and it does need to be this specific version. As it says here, newer versions of Python are not supported. And also you need to make sure you check the box that says add Python to path or add Python to environment variables. It's the same thing. So I've already got this installed, but you want to scroll down to the files and select the Windows installer 64-bit. So if you do forget to tick this box, add Python to path, it won't work when you try to use it. It will say something like Python command is not found. But what you can do is rerun the installer, go to modify, next, and make sure that add Python to environment variables box is ticked, and it will just tweak the settings. The second thing you need to install is Git. Click on the link, choose the 64-bit Windows setup, and just skip through all the defaults and install that. So once Git's installed, then you need to copy and paste this line of text. So git clone and then the URL. So let's just copy that. We need to find a location that we want to install this into. Bear in mind that it takes up around, I think, 7 gigabytes as a base install. I might be wrong, might be more than that, but I think it's around 7. The base model is about 4 gigabytes. There's dependencies, so make sure you've got plenty of disk space. Also, when you get involved with this, you'll start downloading models, extensions, all sorts of bits and pieces. So it's very easy to rack up disk space usage. I think my install folder is about 100 or 150 gig already. So where you want to install it, right click and choose the Git Bash here option and paste that line of text that we copied. So it's finished, it's downloaded to the repo and all the files. We can go into here and see everything. Now, if for any reason you don't have that right click option, Git Bash here, you can also do it through PowerShell. So you can type in PowerShell in your start menu, open that up. You will need to actually navigate to the same folder because it doesn't put you in there automatically. So type in CD for change directory with a space and then the path. Or you might even want to do, CD quotes and then the path with an end quote. That's just to cater for any spaces that might be in that path. So once you hit enter, it'll put you into the path, and then you can run that same command that we did. And that does exactly the same. If I just delete this now and show you it through PowerShell, it downloads the repo and that's it, done. So that's really all you need to do to get installed, at least the initial bits and pieces to get going. So once you open this folder, what we're looking for in here is webui-user.bat. Run that. As soon as you run that, it'll pop up, it'll start ticking away with all sorts that it's doing. It'll say that it's downloading files, the model. It's going to take a bit of time because, as I say, there's about 7 gigs of data that it needs to download. So be patient, allow it plenty of time, but eventually it will spit out a line and stop moving, and it'll say running on local URL with a web address, and it will say the startup time as well. But what we're looking for is this local URL. It's always going to be the same. It's going to be http://127.0.0.1:7860. Now the reason that mine doesn't say that is because I've got some tweaks and some config options that have just made this 0 across the board, but yours will be reflective of what it actually is. So copy it into your web browser, like I've got here, 127.0.0.1. Hit enter and you'll land straight onto this web UI. Now, just type in a very basic prompt, something like a cat in a hat, hit generate, make sure it works, but it should be fine. But you'll only have the base model selection here. You can do quite a lot with that, but it will only get you so far. There's actually a website called Civitai, which I can't show you at the moment because they're doing maintenance typically, but in the next video I'm going to go through all of the different features, terminology, all of the different boxes and drop downs and everything that this has, so you can understand how to use it and the different methods of how to create images and what you can do with them. And I'll go through extensions as well. So I'll leave that for the next video, but this was just to get that initial up and running and get it installed.